Hey guys, tonight we journey deep into the fog-choked forests of medieval North America, where the trees whisper secrets and something just out of view watches from behind the moss-covered trunks. You walk where deer paths turn into hidden trails, where fireflies float like falling stars, and the ground is soft with centuries of forgotten footsteps. A place where one tribe thrived rich in mystery, rituals, and resilience until something changed. Strangers arrived, and soon after, the people began to vanish. You probably won't survive this one unless you're fluent in the old forest omens, friendly with ghosts, and immune to smallpox. Just a saying. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, drop your location and the current time in the comments. I want to know where in the world you're listening from tonight. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You find yourself standing at the edge of a wide river, its dark waters reflecting a dusky sky. This isn't a place on any modern map, but somewhere lost in time, somewhere around the 12th century, give or take a few celestial alignments. The air is thick with the scent of damp leaves and pine pitch, and there's a thrum of drums in the distance. Not war drums, celebration drums. You're walking into the territory of a tribe whose name you'll never learn because their language disappears before it's written down. You don't hear English or French here. You hear bird calls mixed with human signals, laughter blending with cicadas. Their society is complex, layered like the bark of these trees. Villages woven into the land, leaders chosen by matriarchs, trade routes mapped in stories and smoke. They farm maize, squash, and beans, the three sisters, on mounds they've shaped over generations. Every planting season, they perform rituals that blend gratitude and science, knowing the soil like its family. They craft copper jewelry from materials traded hundreds of miles away, create pottery etched with images of turtles and suns, and wear feathers not for fashion, but for legacy. And here's the thing that might surprise you. Some of their cities are bigger than London at the time. Cahokia, for example, a name borrowed from later peoples, is one of the most sprawling urban centers in North America during this era. It boasts plazas, stockades, and pyramid-like mounds, the largest as tall as a 10-story building. At its peak, tens of thousands live there. They don't build with stone, but with earth and wood, shaped with mathematical precision and spiritual intention. You feel a strange comfort among them. Life is structured but not stifled. Children run wild, but with purpose. Elders tell stories so old, the stars seem to shift while they speak. Time feels like something you could hold in your hand, warm and pulsing, and yet there's something uneasy in the air. A comet passed last season, and some whisper, it's a warning. Others point to the sudden absence of birds that once nested in the trees. Still others talk about the people from the east, their skin pale, their language like clinking metal. It's mostly rumors now, shadows on water. Historians still argue whether this tribe was part of the Mississippian culture, an offshoot, or a totally separate group altogether. What's certain is that they thrived for centuries, then dwindled rapidly around the time Europeans began poking around North America's shores, but not from violence. Not at first. And here's the quirky bit: archaeologists once found a ceremonial pit filled with over 50 turtle shells arranged in a spiral. No bones, just shells. No one knows why. Maybe it was a tribute, maybe a warning, maybe just art. You find yourself standing near one of their wooden temples now, shaped like a longhouse, but painted with ochre and soot. There's a gathering tonight. Offerings are placed: cornmeal, woven dolls, a carved stone shaped like a bear. Smoke from sacred fires carries prayers to the sky. Suddenly, a child next to you whispers, "Do you hear the trees talking?" You listen. Wind stirs the canopy, making the leaves murmur like voices arguing politely. And underneath it, a rhythm that doesn't belong too steady, too foreign, like oars dipping into water. The celebration continues. Laughter rises, but some of the elders glance nervously toward the river, where that sound grows louder. A few days later, a canoe returns from a distant village. No one in it is alive. You help pull the boat to shore. There's no blood, no wounds, just sunken eyes and bluish lips. The body of a woman is clutching a carved amulet. It's not from here. It's not even from this continent. And just like that, the first ripple of fear spreads through the tribe. Elders meet in silence. Children are kept inside. Drumming stops. Fires burn lower. Still, most people go on, because what else can they do? You fall asleep in one of the communal lodges. The scent of cedar and smoke in your nostrils. Dreams are strange here, filled with stars that fall too fast and forests that vanish while you watch. When you wake, there are footprints outside, small ones, leading into the trees. You follow them, even though you know better, and ahead, you'll find the ruins of something you couldn't have imagined. The footprints lead you to a clearing where the earth is unnaturally still. The chirping stops. Even the wind pauses at the edge, like it's holding its breath. You step into the silence and see what's left of a city swallowed by time, a place that once pulsed with life, but now echoes with ghosts. You're in the outer reaches of what historians call the Mississippian culture, though the people here never used that name. What they built with purpose grand mounds rising from the earth like sacred hills, aligned with stars and solstices. You touch one, and the clay-packed soil is still firm after centuries, warm from the sun, cool beneath the surface, layers of lives compressed beneath your fingers. At its height, a place like this could house $15,000 or more families, artisans, priests, even bureaucrats of a sort. Wide plazas served as both market and temple ground. There were wooden palisades for defense, council houses for governance, and causeways that stretched like ribs across the land. It's no exaggeration to say this was a city, not just a big village, but a metropolis by medieval standards. Cahokia gets most of the fame in textbooks, but cities like this dotted the river systems from the Great Lakes to the Gulf of Mexico. They weren't connected by highways, but by rivers and stories. Traders moved obsidian, mica, shells, and even ideas, ceremonial designs, burial practices, agricultural knowledge. You picture a canoe stacked with rare stones and bear hides, gliding silently downriver like a floating market stall. And then, abandonment. You wander the edge of one of the central mounds, and see the signs hastily buried garbage pits, homes dismantled instead of decaying naturally, a sharp decline in child burials, no new generations replacing the old. What happened here? Historians still argue whether these cities collapsed due to environmental stress, social upheaval, or external threats. Was it drought, political fragmentation, maybe a massive flood? The region is prone to all of them, but none explain the speed. You crouch beside a discarded clay figure, its face chipped, its body stylized like a bird in flight. Not an idol, not quite a toy. It could be anything. Its meaning is as lost as the language spoken here. You hold it to the light, and for a brief second, it seems to shimmer with purpose. Now imagine being one of the last children here. Everyone's leaving. Mornings are quiet. Friends stop coming to play. Ceremonies are fewer. No more elaborate feasts. The plaza, once alive with dancing feet and the hum of flutes, is just grass now. Here's the quirky part in one of these mound cities. Archaeologists discovered a burial pit with over 200 bodies stacked in tight layers, mostly young women, all seemingly killed in one ritual event. Theories abound: sacrifice, mass execution, disease control. No one agrees. It's the kind of thing that makes you tilt your head and think, what were they thinking? But you move on, because deeper in the forest, farther inland, new communities are forming, smaller, more cautious. These post-urban settlements are less about spectacle, more about survival. They keep the knowledge, the agriculture, the craftsmanship, but the grandeur is gone. You pass through one such village, where the mounds are lower and the walls thinner, as if the people are waiting for something, or bracing for it. A storm rolls in overhead. You huddle beneath the overhang of a crumbling longhouse, watching rain slice through the gray skies like tears down glass. The elders here speak of a past they barely remember. The stories are still told, but they sound more like fairy tales now. The Sun King, the bird warriors, the serpent who watches the rivers. The people here are more wary. When you mention the great cities, they look away. Some say they were cursed. Others claim they were betrayed. And still others suggest that the people didn't vanish. They changed, became someone else, moved west, took new names. You sleep in a hammock strung between two beams, swaying gently to the rhythm of the storm. You dream again of mounds that breathe, of masks that speak, of fireflies whispering in a forgotten tongue. Morning comes soft and gray. You rise, stretch, and follow a path lined with broken pottery. It leads to a bluff overlooking a wide river, slow and muddy. In the distance, you see something strange on the water, a ship with massive white sails. Birds circle it like they don't trust it. And here's where your heart catches in your throat, because this is the beginning of something irreversible. That ship isn't just carrying people, it's carrying ideas, weapons, disease, and change. But for now, you just stare. You think about the city that once stood tall behind you, the laughter, the festivals, the rituals that turned seasons into songs. You wonder if anyone on that ship will ever understand what was lost. The wind picks up. You wrap your blanket tighter and turn to walk back into the forest. Somewhere ahead, a drumbeat stutters into life. The drumbeat follows you, faint at first, like a memory wrapped in fog. You weave between trees, the forest thick with the green hush of early spring. Every so often, you catch glimpses of figures watchful. Still, the tribe you've joined isn't sure what to make of these new arrivals from across the sea, and neither are you. You push through underbrush and come to the riverbank again. The ship is closer now, towering masts, heavy canvas sails, and hulls stained from salt water and time. You feel the way the air has changed. There's a new smell riding the breeze, tangy like vinegar, metallic like wet iron, and laced with something spicy and unfamiliar. The Europeans have arrived, and no one quite knows what that means yet. From a safe distance, you watch the landing. The crew steps ashore with a kind of awkward bravado, armor clinking, boots sinking into soft soil. They talk loudly to each other in a sharp, rapid language. Spanish, maybe, or French, doesn't really matter. It's not the words that raise tension, it's the way they walk, like they already own the place. The locals don't meet them with violence, not yet. Instead, there's a tense curiosity. Gifts are exchanged: beads for furs, iron knives for tobacco. One elder offers a carved pipe. One sailor offers a rusty bell. You wince at the imbalance. Still, a meal is shared. Smiles are attempted. The firelight dances off confused eyes. Historians still argue whether these early interactions were hopeful or doomed from the first handshake. Some records, those written by the newcomers, of course, describe warm welcomes, open arms, and shared knowledge. Others hint at suspicion, quick disappearances, and trade that felt more like tribute. Here's a sensory detail for you. You crouch near a roasting fire where a stew of squash and corn simmers beside strange, salted fish the Europeans brought. The clash of flavors mirrors the clash of worlds. Some find it exciting. You mostly taste dread. The fringe detail. Some tribes mistook the Europeans for ghosts, at first pale, sickly, wearing shiny shells, and arriving from the east, where spirits were said to dwell. One early visitor claimed he was worshipped like a god. Others, not so lucky. In one case, a ship docked and within hours was burned by suspicious locals who'd seen what the last visitors brought, not trade. But death, that hasn't happened here yet. Instead, there's an odd diplomacy in the air. You find yourself sitting beside a young hunter and a sailor trying to teach each other words using gestures. Sky, sun, water. It feels almost innocent, like children trying to build a bridge out of clouds. But just below that, tension like coiled rope, because as the days pass, you notice things change. The villagers become more guarded. Ceremonies are moved deeper into the forest. The newcomers start asking questions about gold, about land, about labor, and then one morning, someone vanishes. A young woman who helped cook for the guests simply doesn't return home. A search is launched. Nothing is found but a scrap of cloth, torn and soaked in something dark. You don't want to believe what it suggests. Neither do they. But that night, no one goes near the campfire where the visitors sit. No one shares food. No drums are played. Still, the ship stays. Another day, another small delegation from the tribe visits the encampment. They carry gifts, dried meats, medicinal herbs, peace offerings. In return, they're given trinkets and something new cloth dyed in vibrant colors and unfamiliar spices. You overhear a sailor mention cinnamon and sugar, words no one here understands. But the smell is intoxicating. You hold a piece of that cloth, it's soft, unnatural, made by hands thousands of miles away. It catches the light in a way your tunic never has. It feels like temptation. That's how it starts. Not with swords or cannons, but with silk and sweetness, with clever smiles, with stories about kings and cities that float on water. The tribe's leaders meet in quiet circles. Should they allow the visitors to stay longer? Should they move the village? One voice suggests driving them out before more arrive. Another says it's already too late. You stand near the fire and listen. You think about the girl who vanished. You think about how the strangers always keep a man awake at night, guarding the supplies. Then you hear something else, a whisper from one of the sailors. He's drawing a map in the dirt, showing where more ships will come. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds. He laughs when he says it. You don't laugh. That night, the village sleeps lightly. Even the dogs whine in their sleep. Something old and heavy presses on the air, and you feel the stories shifting under your feet. Tomorrow, another tribe will arrive. They've heard about the white-skinned ghosts. Some want to trade, some want to fight, some just want to see if the stories are true. But you'll be here, watching as the drums stop, the gifts fade, and something deeper, something older stirs in the soil, because the ships are only the beginning. The new tribe arrives just as the sun begins to cut through the morning fog. Their canoes appear silently, gliding across the water like carved shadows. You count nearly 30 warriors, their faces painted in thick, solemn streaks of red and black. This isn't a friendly visit, and everyone knows it, even the birds keep their distance. You stand near the edge of the village, heart ticking fast. The elders step forward slowly, carrying offerings, feathers, tobacco, dried berries, not weapons. Not yet. The air smells of tension and smoldering cedar, and from behind you the Europeans watch, two hands drifting casually to their swords, though they pretend to admire the trees. The meeting is short, gruff voices, pointed glances. At one point, a word is spoken that you don't recognize, but everyone reacts to sharp intakes of breath, a tightening in the eyes. The visiting chief nods once and spits into the dirt. Then the canoes leave, just as silently as they came. That night, no one speaks. The fires burn low. You chew your food without tasting it. Something has shifted, because the rumors are spreading now like cracks in dry earth. One story says the newcomers carry a sickness in their breath. Another says they melt your soul with their wine. A third insists they eat hearts. None of it is confirmed. All of it feels true. Historians still argue whether conflict was inevitable or provoked. Did the tribes misinterpret European rituals and weapons? Did the Europeans misunderstand the layered diplomacy of these indigenous alliances? Or was it all simply doomed by the sheer imbalance, one side bringing steel and gunpowder, the other bringing trust and memory? Either way, here's what happens next. You're woken in the night by shouting. Flames lick the edge of the village, and smoke wraps around your face like a startled spirit. Someone's tent is ablaze, the one where the sailors kept their food stores and trade goods. Screaming in two languages cuts through the air, and you hear the bark of gunfire for the first time. It's deafening, not like thunder, closer, sharper, unnatural. You hit the ground hard and crawl behind a canoe. A child clutches your ankle and won't let go. Nearby, someone is wailing. The fight is over in minutes. One villager lies bleeding, a shoulder torn open by something he couldn't see coming. A sailor is unconscious, maybe dead, maybe not. No one wins. Everyone loses a piece of themselves. By morning, the ships are gone. No farewell, no apologies, just broken trade goods, burnt earth, and the heavy silence of betrayal. And here's the quirky thing before they left. The sailors carved symbols into the bark of 3 trees near the riverbank. Crosses, circles, letters you don't recognize. Some think it's a curse, others think it's a map. You try to trace one with your finger and swear it pulses, just slightly. In the aftermath, the village fractures. Some families head deeper into the woods. Others join relatives in distant valleys. A few refuse to leave at all. You choose to follow a group heading west, along ancient deer trails that lead to old territory once abandoned, now reclaimed. It's a quiet journey. Along the way, you see signs of other tribes, some friendly, some not. One group you meet wears beads identical to those the Europeans traded. Another shows scars from what looks like a musket shot. You don't ask questions. No one does anymore. At one stop, an elder tells you a story. She remembers a time, long ago, when a star fell from the sky and the earth shook for 3 days. She says this is the same feeling now, not terror. Exactly. But transformation. Something is being broken, so something else can begin. Historians call this the Columbian Exchange, a bland term for what amounts to apocalypse by handshake. It wasn't just goods moving across the oceans. It was disease, influenza, smallpox, measles, all riding in the lungs and skin of men who had no idea what they carried. Or maybe they did. You hope not. And here's your sensory moment. A small boy in your group develops a fever. He cries in his sleep, his skin hot and blotchy. No one's seen symptoms like this before. Within 2 days, he's buried under a cairn of stones by the river. He was 8. The tribe holds a quiet ceremony. No wailing, just humming. A low, bone-deep sound that rises with the mist. You lie awake that night, staring at the stars. They look the same, uncaring and ancient, but you feel smaller now, like the land itself has recoiled. The maps are changing, even if no one is drawing them yet. You reach the new village a few days later. It's smaller, sturdier, hidden between hills, a kind of last refuge. You help raise a longhouse, gather kindling, hunt in unfamiliar woods. Everyone does what they must, but you notice something. The songs are quieter. The children don't play like they used to, and the stories once filled with gods and monsters and celestial battles are shifting. Now they speak of the pale ones, of fire sticks and poisoned gifts, of skin that flakes like birch bark after the sickness comes. No one says the word extinction, but you feel it, circling like a vulture overhead. And still, a part of you hopes, because far to the north, they say there's a tribe untouched by the visitors, still thriving, still dancing. You don't know if it's true, but you need it to be, because winter is coming, and you've seen what vanishing looks like. Snow crunches beneath your feet, soft as ash. You move with the others in slow, practiced silence, your breath fogging in the cold morning air. The new village is smaller, yes, but there's a different kind of resilience here. Everyone walks a little quieter, listens a little closer, Every sound matters. Every shadow could be a story. It's been months since the Europeans left, maybe more. It's hard to track time when the old rhythms are gone. The seasonal gatherings canceled, trade trails abandoned. Even the birds seem more cautious, and yet life pushes forward. You help mend traps in the forest, pulling frozen pine needles from the cords. One catch a lean rabbit. Eyes glassy will feed 3 tonight. The tribe has adapted quickly. These hills were used long ago, before the river village grew big and bold. There are hidden food stores here, secret trails, ancestral memory in the trees. But the fear hasn't faded. It's just buried deeper, like roots in the frost. One morning, scouts return with news more strangers are coming. But this time, it's not the ones you saw before. These new travelers wear thick fur coats and carry strange iron pots and curved knives. They speak a different language. Some say it sounds like the wind arguing with itself. Dutch, maybe, or English. No one's sure. You gather around the fire as stories circulate. This new group builds wooden structures by the coast, permanent ones. A fort, a chapel, a wall. They're not leaving. Historians still argue whether this marks the true turning point, the moment when curiosity turns to conquest. Some claim the early settlers just wanted to survive, to coexist. Others point out how fast coexistence turned into land claims, legal fictions, and discovery that ignored the people already living here. You think of the tree with the carved cross, still standing somewhere by the river. Was that a marker? A warning? A goodbye? The new group doesn't approach directly. Instead, they send emissaries, 2 men with awkward smiles and rough translations. They bring bread that crumbles like dry wood and something called tea, bitter and thin. The elders accept it but say little. You catch a glance from one of them narrowed eyes, lips pressed tight. She doesn't trust them, neither do you. Still, trade resumes, cautious, slow, shells for wool, herbs for needles. The tribe gains tools they've never seen before: metal awls, glass beads, a comb made from bone. But with every gift, there's an ask. Can they stay longer? Can they build more? Can they have the land near the stream? The elders stall, delay, say they need to consult the spirits. You're sent to spy. Yes, really. You and 2 others are told to sneak down the valley and observe the strangers' camp. Not to fight, just to see. You move under moonlight, cloaked in deer hide and cold breath. The snow crunches at first, then stills under your weight. Your senses sharpen. A fox watches you from a stump, eyes reflecting starlight. Finally, you reach the camp, and what you see stays with you forever. Rows of wooden houses, some barely standing, smoke curling from crude chimneys, people coughing, curled under rags. One man stumbles out of a door and vomits into the snow. Another lies motionless on a bench. You realize these settlers are dying, fast. And here's the odd bit: there are graves already. Dozens. Wooden markers scratched with names. Some crooked, so others freshly dug. The disease, it seems, flows both ways. You return with news. But the reaction isn't joy, it's dread. If the strangers die, more may come. If they survive, they'll claim the valley. Either way, the balance is gone. You help prepare a protective ceremony: cedar smoke, chants, sacred ash rubbed into the skin. It's not magic, not exactly, but it's memory. and memory is what you have left. A fringe detail here. One of the elders tells you of a dream where the mountains cracked open and men poured out like ants, carrying thunder and stone. She says it felt like prophecy. You believe her. Winter deepens. The new settlers don't come north, but you hear they're clearing land near the coast, cutting down ancient trees, building walls. You don't understand why someone would wall themselves in. Are they afraid of you or of something else? Then spring arrives, and with it, a decision. Your tribe, like many others, begins to fragment, not just scatter, but split in belief. Some want to stay in the hills, vanish into the woods, live like the ancestors. Others want to try again to approach the settlers, negotiate, maybe even learn their ways. You feel the tear inside you because both choices feel wrong, and both could be right. Historians rarely capture this, the emotional weight of watching your world unravel while still having to gather berries and patch moccasins. There's no heroic monologue, no moment of clarity, just confusion and cooking fires and too many goodbyes. One of your closest friends chooses to leave. She says she's going east, to a gathering of tribes forming a kind of council, a resistance, a refuge. She asks you to come. You promise to think about it. That night, you sit alone on a flat stone, watching the stars. The air smells like thawing moss and wet bark. Somewhere, an owl calls. You feel like a ghost, drifting through a fading story. But here's what keeps you grounded. A child laughing in a nearby hut. The smell of meat roasting over coals. The soft hum of an elder singing a lullaby in a language older than the mapmakers. These things haven't vanished yet. Not entirely, but you sense the next chapter waiting just beyond the ridge, and you know it won't be gentle. The next chapter begins with a storm. You don't see it coming, no towering clouds or eerie quiet. Just a sudden whip of wind and a sky that splits open like a cracked drum. Rain pelts the longhouse roof. Thunder shakes the bones of the earth, and for a few terrifying hours, it feels like the world might be ending again. But it doesn't. You wake the next morning damp, sore, and still breathing. The forest smells reborn. Rain-soaked pine needles, mud, fresh fungi pushing through the underbrush. You take it as a sign not every ending means extinction. Still, things are shifting. The news from the coast worsens. The settlers have stopped trying to be friendly. They claim more land now quietly at first, then by force. You hear of a village downriver burned to the ground after a misunderstanding. Another tribe, one you used to trade with, vanished overnight. No trail, no signs of struggle, just gone. Some say they were taken. Others whisper about sickness again. Either way, you add their names to the fire and sing them home. One day, a group of pale strangers passes near your camp. They don't stop, just glance in your direction with hard eyes and keep walking. One carries a metal cross on a long staff. Another points a strange object at you, a box with a circle of dark glass. Later, someone says it's a camera, a device that steals your image. You laugh at first, but that night, you dream your face is trapped behind glass, unable to move. Historians still debate how photography impacted early contact zones, but to you, it's simple. Being captured in an image feels like being claimed, and the claiming continues. Missionaries arrive next, less armed, more determined. They wear black robes, speak with soft voices, and carry books like weapons. They talk about salvation, heaven, sin, offer you a God who watches everything and judges even dreams. You try to listen, really. You do, but when they burn your grandmother's spirit mask because it's a tool of demons, you stop trying. That's the moment you realize their kindness has rules. Their peace comes with a price, and you're not selling. So you retreat again deeper this time, into the high hills, where snow lingers year-round and the streams still run clean. The village grows smaller, quieter, only the most stubborn remain. But the stories grow stronger. You hear them every night, wrapped in furs, pressed against the longhouse wall, listening to an elder with a voice like bark and honey. She tells of the sky serpents, of the first canoe carved from thunderwood, of how your people once danced so powerfully they made stars shiver. You close your eyes and see it all. And then she tells the harder stories of betrayal, of fire, of how some tribes chose to align with the strangers, even helped them hunt others. We didn't all choose the same road, she says gently, but we all walked through the fire. You think of the ones who vanished. Maybe not all of them died. Maybe some just stopped being seen. There's a quirky legend she shares one you'd almost forgotten. It says that when a tribe is close to disappearing, they can call on the echo spirit, but only if their songs are still remembered and their footsteps still mark the land. If they're entirely forgotten, the echo doesn't come. So you start singing again, quietly, at first, old songs you barely remember. Ones about birds and seasons and fish that swim backwards. You hum them while foraging, whisper them while patching hides, share them with the younger ones, even if they roll their eyes. And a funny thing happens. The birds start nesting closer, the deer linger longer, the dreams get brighter. Maybe it's nothing, maybe it's just coincidence, but it feels like a kind of return. You still have to be careful. Sometimes strangers pass nearby, scribbling in notebooks or drawing maps. Once, a man asks if he can buy your language. You don't understand what he means, so you just walk away. Sometimes it feels like they want the idea of you, but not you. You're not the only one feeling this way. A gathering is called, not a celebration, but a reckoning. Representatives from what's left of 6 tribes come together on a misty plateau above a glacial lake. You arrive on the 3rd day, your feet blistered, your chest tight with nerves. The gathering is heavy. Stories shared, losses counted, names spoken. Some tribes are almost gone. One arrives with only a single elder and 2 children. But they carry a drum older than the mountains, and when they play it, the sound seems to crack the mist itself. You speak your truth when it's your turn. About the tree with the carved cross, the river village, the disappearing. You don't cry, but your voice breaks when you mention the child lost to fever. No one judges. They've all lost someone. Historians still argue whether this kind of gathering counts as political. Was it resistance religion? A dying echo? To you, it's a heartbeat at the end of the week. A pact is made, not written, not signed, just spoken into smoke. A promise we will not vanish quietly. We will pass on what we are. And that, more than anything, terrifies those who try to erase you. The settlers may take land, build walls, rename rivers, but they can't steal what you remember, can't decode a lullaby or erase a smell, can't track a trail unless they've walked it barefoot in the cold. So you teach. Every story, every plant, every name for snow. You teach the children to paddle upstream with their eyes closed, to listen for owl calls that aren't quite right, to follow the moon, not the road. You still don't know what happened to the vanished ones, but you don't believe they were weak. You believe they chose whether to hide, to blend, or to walk into legend. And as you light the fire tonight and wrap yourself in a blanket woven from 1,000 hands, you hear something in the wind, a laugh, maybe, or a song, or maybe just maybe a call from someone who never really left. You wake one morning to silence so deep it hums in your bones. The birds haven't called, the dogs haven't barked, even the wind is holding its breath. You step out of the longhouse, and there it is, a trail of smoke curling like a question mark on the horizon. It's not from your village. You gather quickly, just a small group, 5 of you, walking fast, then faster, until you're running. Not because you're eager, because you already know. The settlement by the southern edge, the one that held out so long, has fallen. What's left is charred beams and scorched pottery, the earth blackened like burnt bread. You find one old man still breathing. He doesn't speak, just points weakly toward the river, where footprints disappear into the mud. Some escaped, some didn't. You light a fire and send up smoke, not for rescue, not for revenge, for remembrance, to tell the sky what happened. There's no longer any question now. They're not coming to share. They're coming to replace. The word extinction feels too sterile, too scientific. This isn't vanishing like dinosaurs or saber-toothed cats. This is erasure, deliberate, systematic, bureaucratic, and it wears so many disguises: trade, treaties, missions, schools, smiles. You return home with ash on your hands and a decision in your chest. It's time to leave again, but not to run, to outlast. Historians still puzzle over what happened to certain tribes, why records vanish, names disappear. Entire cultures seem to melt into the fog of time. Some blame disease, some assimilation. Some say it's just the way of history. But they forget one thing. You weren't writing history. You were living it. And sometimes, the best way to live is not to be found. You pack light, only what you can carry and pass down. A few tools, a bone comb, a folded piece of hide with painted symbols, a jar of cedar ash. Your path leads into the forest, not aimless, but intentional. You follow game trails, old memory trails, the kind not marked on any map. You hear water long before you see it, cold and clean, cascading over stone. You set up near there, a new start. But this time, you don't build a village. You build a story, a portable one, a way of life that moves and adapts and hides in plain sight. You teach the children not to wait for spring. They are the spring. You bury your stories in games, your beliefs in songs. You speak your language in rhythm and joke and gesture, tucking it between syllables like herbs in stew. You become unreadable. And that, maybe, is your greatest weapon. Years pass, not peacefully, but with purpose. You watch as settlers build churches over sacred groves, turn burial grounds into wheat fields. One day, you return to the river where your first village once stood. It's gone. In its place, a town with cobbled streets and a brass plaque that says founded 1632. You stare at it for a long time, wondering if anyone else sees the lie. You scratch a mark on the underside of the plaque. Not much, Just a small carving, a symbol only your people know. Then you walk away. There's a quirky tradition you keep alive once a year. When the snow first melts, you carve a figurine from green wood and float it down the stream. It represents those who vanished, or those who chose to seem to vanish. You never know where it ends up, but you like imagining some stranger picking it up and wondering. Maybe that's the point. You become part of a network quiet, wide, resilient. You meet others who've done the same. Families who changed their names to avoid being taken. Elders who kept stories in embroidery. Hunters who passed trails through handshakes and shared glances. You begin to understand what survival looks like when visibility means risk. It looks like misdirection, like myth, like endurance disguised as disappearance. And slowly, the world changes. One spring, you see a young settler woman sketching a wildflower. She doesn't know it's sacred. You approach and gently explain. She doesn't dismiss you. She listens. She asks questions. You watch her write down your words phonetically in the corner of her notebook. It's the first time you see someone record instead of replace. Not a revolution, just a moment, but it matters. Historians still argue whether the so-called lost tribes were truly lost or just misnamed. Were they wiped out, absorbed? Do echoes of their DNA still run in modern families without anyone knowing? But you know the truth, they're not gone. They just learned how to be shadows. There's an emotionally hard moment when you return to the gathering plateau and find it overgrown. The stone circle broken, but when you kneel, you see something buried in the moss, a bead, sky blue, not glass, not trade, old. You smile, 'cause someone came back before you and left a message. These moments add up. A child humming a forgotten song while climbing a tree, a woven pattern in a museum with no explanation, a recipe passed down through 4 grandmothers, a carving on a windowsill. You start to believe that maybe, just maybe, you didn't vanish. You seeded the future. You moved underground, like water through limestone, shaping things from within. And maybe the archaeologists and historians and textbook writers will never quite pin you down. But that's fine. That was the plan. Because sometimes the best resistance is to become the question no one can answer. Sometimes the only way to stay is to leave behind a trail no one knows how to follow. And sometimes vanishing isn't defeat, it's rebirth. You build one last shelter, not for yourself, you're old now, for a child, or maybe a traveler. You leave it stocked with dried fish and cedar blankets. On the wall, you hang a single word painted in ochre, remember, and then you fade into the trees, like mist, still there, just harder to find. The forest is thicker now, not just with trees, but with time. Decades have passed, and the world outside has shifted in ways you never imagined. The strangers' settlements have become cities. Their maps are full. Their roads run straight and hard across the earth. Where there were once villages and hunting trails, now there are factories, railways, neon signs blinking in the night like alien stars. But not here, not in this sliver of forest where memory still breathes. You return, though you don't remember leaving, or maybe you never really did. You're older now. Your knees ache, and your hair has gone the color of snow under starlight, but you still know where to step to avoid the creaky roots, which stones are warm enough to sleep against, and how to catch the exact scent of river mud before rain. The past is buried everywhere, but not dead. It whispers in the owl calls and the sap-sticky bark of the oldest trees. It clings to the inside of your coat, to the carvings on your knife handle, to the rhythm of your footsteps. You've become a walking archive, even if no one else can read you. And then one spring morning you see them, strangers, again, but not like before. They move differently, gentler. No guns, no crosses, just notebooks, field recorders, carefully folded tents. One has a tattoo on her arm in a language you thought lost. Another is humming a tune that sounds suspiciously like your grandmother's lullaby, the one with the verse about fish that steal moonlight. You watch them from the trees. They don't see you, or maybe they do, but they pretend not to. That's fine. You hear them arguing over something. A place name? They can't agree. One says it's Algonquian. One says Iroquoian. Another says it doesn't exist at all. It's just a misreading in an old colonial diary. You shake your head, amused. Historians still argue over everything, don't they? But while they debate in the underbrush, you walk over to the old fire ring, just a ring of stones now, half swallowed by moss, and place a pine cone in the center. Your offering, your mark, and maybe someone will find it. Later that night, the air turns silver with mist, and you light a small flame, just enough to warm your hands and illuminate the carved stick you've carried for years. It's not a weapon, not anymore. It's a story, a portable memory. Every notch, a name. Every swirl, a laugh, a cry, a vow. You sing again, softly, so the forest doesn't wake too much. And as you sing, you realize something unexpected. You're no longer afraid. Not of the strangers, not of being forgotten, because the children you taught, they taught others. Maybe not everything, maybe not in the same words, but enough. Enough to recognize a sacred grove, enough to leave wildflowers unpicked, enough to ask questions instead of make claims. You remember a fringe theory, one of those oddball ideas historians toss around over coffee. It suggests that some tribes didn't vanish at all, but simply chose to camouflage themselves so deeply into the growing American myth that no one knew where the nation ended and the tribe began. A romantic theory, sure, but sitting here, wrapped in firelight, smelling wood smoke and roasted pine nuts, you wonder if they were more right than they realized. Maybe your tribe is still here, not in census rolls or dusty treaties, but in sidewalk chalk, grandma's recipes, bedtime stories, and the way people instinctively pause before entering certain woods. In the hush, in the echo, you touch the scar on your hand, a bite from a dog long ago, healed into the shape of a crescent moon. You smile. Pain has a funny way of leaving behind beauty if you live long enough to see it. And as the fire dwindles, so does the night. One last image stays with you, a girl from that group of strangers, walking alone by the stream. She stoops to pick up something smooth and blue, a bead, sky-colored, not glass, not trade. She holds it up to the light, puzzled, then smiles. You feel a tremor in your chest. Not sadness, not fear, recognition. That's enough. That's survival. That's story. Now, as we ease into stillness, you settle back into the quiet hum of the world, the flickering hush of fire turned to ember, the slow sigh of trees stretching toward the stars. Your breath evens out, your fingers relax. The forest, once full of dangers and running feet, now holds only peace. There's something sacred in this moment. Isn't there? The knowledge that survival isn't always loud or visible. Sometimes it's soft, quiet, a choice made again and again to keep walking, to keep remembering, even when no one's watching, especially when no one's watching. You imagine the sound of wind through cedar branches, the smell of smoke clinging to fur, the weight of an old story resting gently behind your eyes. You're not racing anymore. You're resting, drifting between what was and what might still be. Some say the tribe vanished, but maybe they simply changed shape, like mist, like legend, like light slipping through the canopy. Maybe they became the questions that linger long after the textbooks have closed. And maybe you, curled up now in your bed, listening with your heart half asleep, are part of that story too. So, let it hold you. Let the hush settle in your chest like snow on pine needles. Let the last embers glow a little longer in your mind. The story is over. See you tomorrow night. Sweet dreams.